Well, hey there, everyone. Welcome on into VGMporium, video game music, and more. Today, I have myself another guest here. We have Kungfu Carlito of Heroes 3 podcast, and I'll just let him actually properly introduce himself.
Oh, hello. Yeah, it's me. I'm Carlos. Heroes 3 podcast. We've been doing that for a while. I am also a huge lover of video game music, and whenever I get the chance to combine these two things, I will always take it. So here we are today. You called me up and you're like, hey, I want you to be on this show, and I was like, I would love to do that because I'm a huge fan of your show.
Oh, thank you.
And what are we going to talk about? And I actually got to pass it over to the last Rican because I think he was the one that suggested it on his episode as a follow-up, and we're going to be talking about Kaiju today.
And it's also appropriate because your Heroes 3 podcast, you guys just did an episode about the original Godzilla movie, so it's actually even more appropriate.
Oh man, yeah, super excited. I've been totally in this brain space for a while now, and like last year we covered Bruce Lee, which was like a big deal, and a lot of people love Bruce Lee, and
yeah, that was really good. And actually, I didn't really have much Bruce Lee experience myself, and so listening to those was really kind of enlightening.
Oh,
so
man.
I really like that.
That makes me feel really good. But yeah, what I was gonna say is that something big like this, and I mean figuratively and literally, like Kaiju, a lot of people love them, and it's been a huge part of popular culture. And I want to make sure that I'm doing at least these subjects justice to the fans. And I mean, I'm a fan too. It's not like I'm learning about a lot of this for the first time, but it's really been fun digging into it. And I say that a lot on the podcast whenever we get into stuff like this. But yeah, it's no small feat. That's another pun.
Oh no! Yeah. Oh. You lose a little bit of your lifespan every time you do a pun.
It's worth it, though. No
matter how small.
It's worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as you acknowledge that. Yep. So, like you said, this was a topic that the last Rican had suggested on the episode he was on here with when we were talking about over-the-top characters, and he brought it up twice, I think. So, yeah, I was trying to figure out how to do it, and you brought it up, and I couldn't say no.
Yeah.
So yeah, what we came in on with? Do you wanna tell the folks what we came in on with here?
Sure. This was a track from Godzilla Monster of Monsters for the Nintendo. This is the Earth theme, and it was composed by Masatomo Miyamoto. And this game was developed by Compile, and this was the first Godzilla video game that I can remember. And actually, I can talk a little bit about my experience with this game. And when I was a kid, in the summer times, we would visit my family in Puerto Rico, and there was a handful of video games that my little kid brain was like, you can only play these games in Puerto Rico because I've never seen them anywhere else. It's like the kid logic, right? So one of those games was Monster Party on Nintendo, and the other game was this game here, Godzilla. And I don't know if you've got any experience with the game, but it's kind of weird, but kind of cool in a way.
Yeah, I don't have experience with this game in particular. I do have experience with Monster Party.
Oh, awesome! Yeah,
I did play that one, so yeah, that was a weird one. But the only really things I know about this game is that you play as Godzilla. It's you kind of have like a grid that you go across.
Yeah.
In a map, and then you go into the stage, and then you fight the different other monsters.
Right. They set it up so there's this planetary grid, and each planet is basically a stage, and you have to fight another monster from Godzilla. And actually, there's a couple of monsters in this game that aren't even from Godzilla films. One is a big kind of squid dude. His name is Gezora.
Okay.
And he was actually in another Toho film. It's called Space Amoeba here. But there's another one that was like a mole robot. His name is Mogera, and he's from a movie called the Mysterians, and it's kind of fun to see them kind of lump that all together. And I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't know left from right, so I just like to see these crazy monsters. And I mean, speaking of kaiju, that's pretty much the appeal of it, right? When you're a kid.
Yeah, it's just seeing these just insane, just like crazy monsters just doing all kinds of things. And like, like you said, as a kid, you don't really like, like for these earlier ones, they're obviously like guys in costumes doing it, but kids, you see it and you're like, whoa, this is so amazing. They're crushing buildings, they're making things explode.
Yeah, exactly. It's too much fun. It's like almost, I mean, what it turns into is almost like you're watching a wrestling match.
Yeah, basically.
But it's pretty great. I love it.
Better than wrestling, I think.
I agree.
For me, at least.
Yeah, I'm not really into wrestling. I do like seeing wrestling moves, like in fighting games and stuff. But seeing a couple of rubber suit actors, they originally were calling it suitmation, which is a really funny term.
Yeah.
But seeing people flopping around in those rubber suits is really fun.
I think my actual main exposure to that was, of course, Power Rangers, with like when they went to like the Megazord and they fought like the monster of the week. And
yeah, dude. Yeah, you get monsters and you get robots. Like, what else more do you want?
What can be better?
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Now I want to talk a little about this track. Compile, of course, just always dealing out the goods, and then just like that. What I really like is just that slowdown breakdown, like before it loops, is just that's getting me.
It changes the like time signature, or at least it seems like it does, and you get this kind of really fun, like an A part and a B part almost. And
then I noticed the title screen is actually a arrangement of the Godzilla theme.
Yeah, it's the best. I love the interpretation. Honestly, it feels like of something a modern chiptune artist would do with Godzilla's theme song, and it's really cool to see them really go for it back then when the game came out. When I was a kid, I didn't even know. It just sounded like a cool song, right? And what I also know is that the Japanese version of the game just straight up has like Godzilla's theme, like at the right tempo, and this is like a sped up version that you get to at like the end of the game. But when they brought it over to the US, they were like, we gotta juice this up, so we just threw that in the beginning. Which, I mean, when we're talking about Godzilla movies, that is something that would happen too. And the Japanese version is one thing, and then when they would bring it over to the United States, they would cut it up and re-edit it and stuff. So I mean, I guess it's kind of in line with the movies if you think of it that way.
So it's gonna sound horrible, but whenever I think Godzilla, the first piece of music that actually comes to mind is the opening theme for that Hanna-Barbera cartoon. And I've actually been thinking about it all day long today.
Sorry for the surprise cut here, but there was some technical difficulties on Carlito's side. He was able to get it fixed up, and we'll just continue where it got fixed.
So yeah, all right, man. I'm ready to roll.
Okay, here we go. So, yeah. Where were we? Yeah, actually just wanted to say, on my way home, I saw a truck with a sticker on the back window that just said Gojira.
Oh, I love it.
I don't know if it was actually like actually referencing Gojira, or if it was like some other thing that using the name Gojira. I don't know, but it was really cool looking.
There's like a metal band by the name of Gojira.
That could have been it.
It could have been that too, but I think if the end result reminds you of Godzilla, it's worth it.
And then actually another cool Gojira thing is there's a listener and fellow chiptunist goes by the name Crazy Goji because they are crazy for Gojira.
Oh, I love it. Oh,
I know. And his music is really cool. Like, it's just kind of I don't know how to explain it, but if you just look up Crazy Goji on SoundCloud or Gojira thing, because he had to make a second channel because he went over that basic SoundCloud limit.
Oh, right.
His music is really cool.
Definitely gonna check that out.
And I'm gonna feature some of it on there soon. Don't you worry, Crazy. Don't worry, Goji, I got you. But yeah, I think at this point, we're gonna move on to our next track here that I got, and this for me is actually my first experience with kaiju and video games. So I got next here for you is Like a Beetle, theme of Beetle Mania from King of Monsters, composed by the SNK Soundteam.
Oh man, love it.
You just heard Like a Beetle, theme of Beetle Mania from King of Monsters, composed by the SNK Soundteam.
Dude, so good.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I have spent a lot of quarters on this game, so I was really happy to see you bring this to the show today.
Yeah, no. So it was one of the first ones that popped in my mind when you said you wanted to do Kaiju, and it's actually, like I said, my first exposure to Kaiju in video games. And yeah, I just remember, I think it was like at some, I can't remember what it was. It was like some hall at like some place where my grandmother used to live. Yeah, they just had, you know, some arcade machines, and one of them was this. I can't remember if it was like a Soul one or if it was like one of the
multi-slot. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I just loaded it up and I was like, oh man, it's so cool. You got giant guy, you got giant gorilla, you got lizard, you got Beetle Man.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because it's just walking around like these massive things in a city, crushing it and just wrestling it.
It really,
like, I kind of had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was fun.
And it really does capture like what we were talking about, how it's like kind of just a wrestling match. And in this game, you basically plop down into a city and you're a giant whatever, and you have a wrestling match. It's got all the normal controls you'd expect from a wrestling game. You can grapple each other and you have to mash on the button and you don't even know if the mashing matters or not, but sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. I think I don't know if it's in the first game or the second game, but I know you can get power-ups and then like your monster can like get stronger. I
vaguely remember that, like just something causing some flashing or something.
Sure, you'll like change color and then like you'll get an extra ability, like you can shoot a laser or something. King of the Monsters 1 was just basically structured around like the wrestling matches. King of the Monsters 2 was a little different because it had like these kind of stages you'd progress through and then you lead up to a boss.
Okay.
Where you'd fight them wrestling style, or not. They might be floating around or something. And I love them. They look amazing.
Yeah.
And also we gotta shout out to the orchestra hits, right?
Oh yeah.
We're playing an arcade game in the 90s. You gotta land some orchestra hits because you want to get somebody looking over at the machine.
You gotta have something that'll cut through everything else.
Yeah, and yeah, music wise, it really calls to some of the tropes that you would find from like kaiju film, because like I guess like something like a King Kong or something, you've got like an island with natives and mysterious music and tribal rituals, and you hear something like this and you're like, whoa, who is this Beetle? You know, it's really cool.
Yeah, I just like the way how it like combines elements of like, if I can put it this way, classic kaiju music, you know, just like kind of bombastic like strings and horns, and then bringing in like those more kind of sci-fi kind of sounds, like, you know, the like like just the swelling of the synth and everything, and yeah, it's just a really,
and the warbly like kind of synth, like a theremin or something almost.
Yeah, so it's just like a nice blend of like these two elements, like, you know, B-movie sci-fi and just towards like Godzilla kind of style.
Yeah. These games were hard though. I don't think I've ever beaten a King of the Monsters game, because like a lot of different arcade games, they're made to really take your quarters, and eventually you get to a point where you can't even mash hard enough. You'll always lose the grapple. There was a thing that in Samurai Showdown, there was a thing where you would clash and you'd have to like hit the button to kind of win in a similar way. And I read a story where one of the programmers said that no matter how much you mash, it's just a random outcome. So they just have that button icon, like hit the button. That's just there to get you excited.
Yeah.
You could let go
like,
and
oh man.
Yep. So I wonder if maybe something was happening in King of Monsters the same way.
Yeah, no, this Beetle guy, I haven't looked at any pictures of him, but I know that you know, especially the Japanese kids do like their beetles and wrestling those beetles, so it's kind of appropriate they have.
Yeah. Totally.
Beetle Mania!
Yeah, right. Beetles and wrestling.
Wild.
Beetle Mania is perfect. We were talking a little bit before the podcast, and you said that one of the Godzilla films you were familiar with had like an Ultraman type character.
Yeah.
And that's actually from Godzilla vs. Megalon. And
Megalon, okay.
Yeah, the character you're thinking of is Jet Jaguar,
okay.
And he's like a riff on Ultraman. And but yeah, the Jet Jaguar is like a good guy, and Godzilla by this time is a good guy because that can happen.
Yeah, but I remember they were fighting, and then at the end they were fighting alongside each other, you know, kind of being buddy, so
yeah, and that's straight
like,
up. Yeah, it's straight up a wrestling match. And the guy that they're fighting against is Megalon, and he's like a big beetle. So it's similar to like Beetle Mania we're talking about here.
Okay. And I don't know why don't remember the Beetle guy.
Yeah, because he's not as cool as Godzilla, and he's not as cool as a orange and red Ultraman looking guy.
Yeah.
That's why you don't remember it. And they're doing crazy moves in that. There's some really infamous scenes from that movie where like Godzilla's like sliding across the ground on his tail. Yep. Yeah. And they do like a giant swing and stuff. Like it's
just getting silly with
really
it.
Fun stuff. Yeah, there's like not like a rope-a-dope over-under situation, but I think there's literally a moment where like Jet Jaguar's holding Megalon and Godzilla does like a run up to him and like shoulder tackles him and stuff. It's like really goofy.
Oh man.
Yeah, by that time like Godzilla was for kids. Like they made the movies with kids in mind, and kids would be like the main characters, and they were showing them at like kids like movie festivals and stuff.
And then you get like that little Godzilla.
Oh no, you brought it up.
I don't know if at that point was he actually referred to as Godzuki, or was that only the Hanna-Barbera?
That's only the Hanna-Barbera one.
Okay, because like I saw that thing and I was like, that's Godzuki.
Yeah, there's a handful of like Godzilla, baby Godzillas, and they have different names. The one you're thinking of is Minila. And yeah, that thing.
They have different names, and there's multiples.
You don't want to get into.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Don't even start me. Please don't do it.
A 2-hour podcast.
Well then, I think it's time to switch gears here. I think we're onto your getting onto your next track.
Yeah, and I kind of talked about King Kong a little bit, and we're talking about like kind of natives and tribal sounding music. But the next track that I have here is from Konami YY World. And this is Kong's BGM. So in this game, you can actually play as King Kong. Konami WoW World is like kind of a mash up kind of platformer of a bunch of Konami characters, and at the time there was a game called King Kong 2 Ikari no Megaton Punch, and it was like a top-down like action game where you played as King Kong. It actually is tied into King Kong Lives, I believe, is like a King Kong movie from 1986 around the same time. But that the music's really good, and the composers, I can mention those when we get back. But yeah, I picked this one because it's a little juiced up version of Kong's BGM, originally from King Kong 2.
Welcome back. That there was Kong BGM from Konami WoW World, composed by Atsushi Fujio, Shigemasa. I'm messing this up. Hard time. You wanna do this one?
Yeah, I'll go for it. Yeah, this is by Atsushi Fujio, Shigemasa Matsuo, and Shinya Sakamoto. Some Konami heavy hitters from back in the Nintendo era. I'd love to see it. Atsushi Fujio, I think, did Jackal. I love Jackal. That's a good time. And yeah, we're talking about some King Kong. So in Konami WoW World, I think you're basically like rescuing these characters, and then you can play as them. So like Simon Belmont's in it, and King Kong's in it, a bunch of characters. But yeah, the reason I'm bringing it here today is because of King Kong, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool to see when I guess like 8-bit 16-bit era when there's an adaptation from a movie, they kind of have to get weird with it because you can't really faithfully adapt from a movie.
Creatively
and yeah, if you watch a video of King Kong 2, it kind of looks like you're playing Zelda, but you're playing as King Kong, which is hilarious. You know, it's a screen to screen kind of action game, and you end up getting to like a boss, and then you get like a key, and then you get to the next stage.
Weird.
And you're basically stomping on stuff and punching stuff. So yeah, I'm sure that I haven't seen it in a really long time. That 86 version of King Kong Lives. In Japan it was called King Kong 2, and it stars Linda Hamilton, if I'm remembering right. And anyways, I don't remember how that movie, whether it was good or not, but there's no way that it was comparable to what this game is, right? There's no way. So
I haven't played this set. I've never actually. Well, of course not Konami WoW World, because that was only in Japan. Did we get King Kong 2? out here? Or
we did not. Both of
okay.
them were Japan only, which is funny to think about. King Kong as an American property and being basically lumped into Konami mascot status in Japan only. I love that. Yeah,
weird,
I love stuff like that.
Fixation some of these companies get on like certain like American characters and like oh man, they're part of ours now. They're hanging out with all our guys. We got Simon Belmont. We got oh man, we got Twinbee here. We got
Goemon.
Goemon hanging out with the classic Konami character, King Kong.
yeah. And I mean, we talked a little bit about the track while we were listening to it, but you hit it right on the head, man. It sounds like a spaghetti western almost.
Yeah.
You got this Konami gallop, and it's got this kind of heroic melody going on. It's pretty great.
King Kong riding on a tiny horse, wearing a tiny cowboy hat, riding off in the sunset.
Yeah, I said, where would King Kong climb? Because he's got to climb something, right?
No,
that's a classic trope.
They just got to build an extra tall saloon for him.
Yeah,
just for him.
Yep.
Every town has an extra tall saloon just for Cowboy Kong.
Yep, I love it. But yeah, I mean, King Kong, I don't think if you hear the word kaiju, you think of King Kong, but
no.
Kaiju, honestly, for me, I feel like kaiju wouldn't exist if not for King Kong, because like the original King Kong came out way back in like the 30s, and that movie really inspired a lot of the people that would end up making Godzilla, and then from Godzilla that spawned a whole plethora of movies. So
the kaiju genre and the tokusatsu,
exactly,
the Sentai.
Yep, all that stuff has roots going back to King Kong. So it's kind of a cool thing where it's like a West meets East situation. West inspires East and East inspires West.
Yeah.
And I've seen that a lot over the course of doing Heroes 3, and it's really fun to kind of dig up those connections.
Yeah, it's just really interesting. Like the ones that I have listened to, just kind of the weird crossing paths, especially it's kind of a weird spot to bring it up, but like that Face Off episode you guys did.
Weird,
I've only seen it I think I've only seen it a couple times, and that was when I was a kid when it first came out, and I would never assume that there was all these weird just connections to the Hong Kong movie scene and everything,
Yeah. Oh, dude. Hey, man, you're rubbing me up. That's awesome, man. Thank you for listening. This it's not why I'm on, but I really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right back at you, man. This is a fun time, and I mean, yeah, I've been listening to your podcast a bunch too.
Yeah, thank you. It's always really cool to hear other podcasters say they're listening to my show, because I'm always kind of worried am I doing things right?
Dude, same thing, man. Totally the same. We just got to keep doing it.
Yeah, no, it's just it's just always, it feels really good just to be able to talk about the thing that you enjoy it, even because for me, I only have maybe a few friends that I can really get into VGM with, around me.
Right.
And one of them lives 2 hours away from me, so it's kind of and he's the one that I can get really deep in with.
Yeah.
But so it's always really cool to just be able to share what I have in my head, and then when I have fellow VGM enthusiasts on, it's always just it feels like it's just kind of validating, and also just really kind of relieves that pressure.
Yeah, dude, I totally hear that. And something like a MagFest, or I mean for you MagWest, these are kind of events where you can hit up these bands, and it's kind of cool because it's we're all into the same stuff. And with all the video game music podcasts too, there's so many now, and everybody brings their own flavor to it, and it's a really great thing to know that maybe you're not physically close to somebody sharing this kind of interest, but there's a bunch of people out there that you can really hit up or hop onto their podcast and have a great time, and you're connecting on that same level. It rules.
Yeah. It does. It's really, really cool. And actually, speaking of something really, really cool, it's really cool are space monsters.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that too.
Yeah, so I got us our next track coming up here. This is coming from the game No More Heroes 3. This is Space Peacock, and it was composed by Fumi Miyoshi. So that was Space Peacock from No More Heroes 3, composed by Fumi Miyoshi. And yes, this is you imagine, just a giant peacock in space.
That's so crazy.
This thing is massive, yeah. And its wing segments, like it has like maybe three. It has like these 3 gems on each wing that you have to like destroy and be able to damage it. You're as big as one of those segments.
I have to say,
it's crazy.
Yeah, because I played the first 2 games and I kind of get an idea of what they were. I can't imagine how it ends up where you're in space in like a mech suit, because I looked it up, right? You're like in a mech suit,
yeah,
and you're
full armor mode.
You're fighting a giant space peacock. I love that. That's
like
what video games should be, right? Like,
yeah, no, this game is just beyond bonkers. It's insanity. It's insanity incarnate, and I loved it so much. Like, there are some faults to it, but just the fun I had with it, just like the whole, just everything about the game was just great.
That's awesome.
And definitely I would highly recommend that you play Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes, like kind of like the 2.5 kind of game in between No More Heroes 2 and 3, in order to kind of get some idea, like some story elements that you get going into No More Heroes 3, because that like if you go straight into No More Heroes 3 from No More Heroes 2, you're gonna be like, I missed a lot of shit. What happened?
Nice.
Because there's like some characters in there that like weren't there before. Like some characters developed in a way that like weren't the way they were before. And it also kind of explains us. It doesn't quite explain how you get into space, but it explains like some of the armor stuff that you have going on.
Yeah, cool. I like I said, I really like the first 2 games, but for whatever reason I haven't played the last 2. And yeah, I mean, especially looking this track up and looking up where it is, I want to play this. I also noticed, I remember, I think both 1 and 2 were by Masafumi Takada, and
the first one was Masafumi Takada.
Okay.
The second one I think was headed by Jun Fukuda.
Oh, okay.
With some assistant by Masafumi. I think.
Okay, cool. And like, I remember a lot of the first game soundtrack was riffing on that theme, like the No More Heroes theme. And
that No More Heroes 3, that neat thing that just plays throughout the relay and was stuck in my head for months and months.
Yeah,
in all its variations.
It super gets stuck in your head, yeah.
No,
and this
so
one
good.
is by a composer named Fumi Miyoshi, and I'm not familiar with that person at all, but I love the track. It sounds great.
Either. Yeah, this game has like a few different composers. It's like Jun Fukuda comes back to do some. Has like Fumiyoshi doing a few. So yeah, it's kind of I don't know who else is on it. I haven't really like taken the time to really like look at who else was involved with this game soundtrack.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's all just really cool music.
Yeah, and it has like the audio style, lives up to the visual style. Like that's what I remembered from the games I played. Yeah,
and this one, and then each like I said, there's I think I told you there's 3 different space kaiju you face off. Technically 4. One of the first boss you face off with, like kind of the opening boss. You face him in space, and he's maybe just a little bigger than you. But then like the next ones are one called Ice Sheath, which is just this giant ice monster with claws and stuff, and it just shoots ice at you and all these ice things, and that thing's just like maybe 3 times as big, it's bigger than you.
That's awesome.
And then this other one, I can't remember its name, but it's like this giant sphere with mouths that open up and shoot out just a bunch of different stuff at different states. And that's the thing, each of these monsters have like different stages once they get to a certain health point too.
Phase boss fights.
So
yeah,
Phase
cool.
Peacock, like I said, has these giant wings, and it has like multicolored like gems on them. And you have to blast those out. You have to like go blue, 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 and then you got to figure out which one is next, because it's randomized too. So it's not like in order, like blue, 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 red, 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 with yellow, 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 green, and then you got to blast out like the center gem after all those. And then it gets crazier and crazier, because it shoots out all these lasers from its like wing segments.
Oh, man.
Like it'll make these like laser barriers that you have to kind of keep moving to avoid, because it's moving along with you.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to kaiju too. Like in the movies, like they kind of treat it like animals, where they have characteristics, and also like sometimes they'll have like weaknesses too. So I think having like kaiju in a game is a kind of a nice fit too for like a boss.
Oh yeah,
because you can have these phases, or you can have these like weak points, and it makes sense in translation to something that you would see in the movie.
Oh yeah,
it's really fun. Like I don't know. I kind of am drawn to like the naturalistic stuff, like when they show like at the beginning of a kaiju movie, it's like you don't know what it is maybe, and there's like a scientist saying, "Oh, well, we found this footprint or something," and it's like leads you to believe, "Oh, it's radioactive or something." And I always like eat that stuff up.
Yeah.
I think that there hasn't really been a game that kind of pulls from that. I mean, I think there's been
like kind of like presents the mystery.
Yeah.
To like where like you're kind of slowly figuring, like seeing bits and pieces of what this thing could be, until finally you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you're like, whoa, and then like there's the shock of that reveal, and then how do you deal with that threat? I think that could make for an amazing game. But it is really cool to see that, like, I mean, specifically like boss fights, and in a lot of games boss fights turn into like almost like a kaiju situation, like or like something like Shadow of the Colossus, which I think is...
Yeah, I was just about to say that. That was kind of like the closest example we have of like something that's kind of like foreshadowed, have like some ideas of what it could be, and then like, you know, once you get to it, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, I do honestly feel like the closest translation to like kaiju in a game would be something like Shadow of the Colossus, but I like how it's like delivering you the story in a completely different way, and I was for sure considering bringing a track today from Shadow of the Colossus, but I'm such a fan of that I've been on a handful of different shows, and I had to share my love for that. So I didn't want to like...
I was kind of considering it, but it was also kind of like one of the obvious choices too, and I was like...
Yeah, the other thing about it, I mean, I can talk about it really quick, is that the composer for Shadow of the Colossus is Ko Otani.
Yeah.
And he is also known for doing some kaiju films. So in the 90s, there's Gamera, who's like the turtle equivalent to Godzilla's lizard, right? And it's by a different company, but there's like a trilogy of films that he did the music for, and I think in a lot of ways his work on that, and he'd later go on to do one of the Godzilla films in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
And I think those scores are really what led the developer to be like, hey, can you do the music for Shadow of the Colossus, because it sounds almost the same.
And he did an amazing job too. Just like,
oh man,
just kind of, I still get chills every time I hear some of those cues and stuff. Dude. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, and how they use it in the game too, that it's like this kind of dynamic thing, is just like so awesome. I love it. Oh yeah. You know. Anyways, side tangent, but kaiju related, so it
kaiju
counts.
Everything kaiju related goes today.
One thing we do have to talk about is how do you defeat a giant monster, and my next track is kind of representing that. I was originally gonna go with a track from Monster Hunter, because I also feel like Monster Hunter is a fun example of not like necessarily a Godzilla scale situation, but definitely a kaiju situation. And actually it goes into the kind of natural phenomena of that, like they're creatures like a dinosaur or something. And I was gonna pick a track or it's called the Voracious Devil. Devil Joe is like a crazy like lizard monster that you fight in Monster Hunter. But I had an epiphany this morning, and there's this game that I loved, and it's a great arcade experience from Namco Bandai called Tank Tank Tank. And the track that I'm bringing today is Enemy Battle 3. And the composers listed are Linda AIQ, Keiki Kobayashi, Katsuro Tajima, and Setsuo Sakamoto.
hello folks. That was Enemy Battle 3 from Tank Tank Tank. Composed by a whole slew of people with Horoki Hashimoto as the sound director. And then I don't have the other ones.
No,
again.
it's all good. I mean,
I messed up again.
It's basically, like I said, a lot of Namco in-house composers.
Namco Soundteam.
This game, we were talking a little bit about it. It was an arcade release, and then it was ported to the Wii U. I haven't played the Wii U version. And the reason is that it was such a great arcade experience to me. This is like, I mean, have you played like the new Mario Kart in the arcade that was also developed by Namco Bandai?
Played a version of it like years ago.
Sure.
Like, I think it was like 2014.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but it like takes a picture of your face, so you have like your face on the screen. So this game also does that, but the difference is that you're piloting a tank, and the screen is vertical, kind of like you're looking at a smartphone, but it's a huge full-size screen, right? You can pick either to battle each other, which is really fun, and you get these power-ups, so you get like a multi-barrage missile or a laser or a machine gun. It's really cartoony in design, so it looks like almost like you're playing with toys. And you can also do like missions. So the missions are kind of like kaiju focused. The whole game is really kaiju focused situation where you're either fighting giant spiders or giant bees, or like there's like these giant like building robots that are attacking you. And each of those missions will lead up to a boss section where you're fighting a giant kaiju. So you're either fighting like a giant version of the building robot, or you're fighting a huge kraken with like cannons on his head and stuff.
Oh, geez.
And you also fight like they just call it Red Dragon, but it's basically like King Ghidorah in Godzilla, which is like this huge three-headed dragon. And
oh yeah, I know this fella.
Yeah, so these are like it's an arcade situation, like a racing game where it's like 4 linked cabinets. It can be up to 4, I think.
Okay.
And it's just so much fun, and there's force feedback on the steering wheel, and you're just having a blast, like shooting bombs and launching missiles and blasting away at all these creatures. And this is why I discarded that Monster Hunter track and brought this, because it also is like, that's like the typical scene in a kaiju movie where you've got the military, whether it's Japanese military, American military, trying their best to kind of just annoy a giant monster enough so it leaves.
Oh, what a bother.
Yeah.
I don't wish to deal with any of these pesky tanks any longer. I'm going home.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. You see just all the little sparks flying off of Godzilla, and he's like, just waves his hand and just like goes back into the ocean. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Fun stuff.
I like the idea. Just like kind of just looking indifferent and just like whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to have fun.
Yeah, but and this game is a lot of fun. So if Godzilla was playing this game, he wouldn't want to go back into the ocean. He'd be staying in that arcade.
This would be another situation of like the King Kong on the tiny horse,
Yep.
Godzilla on the tiny and this is one of those ones you actually sit down in,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, you sit down in it.
So it'd be like I can only imagine like using like the tips of his claws just trying to like control it.
Yeah, and the camera tries to take a picture of him, and it's just like one tooth, one giant tooth.
Poor Godzilla, man. You can't enjoy normal human stuff. You can't play a simple arcade game without, I can't see the screen.
It's
too big.
It's a little bit of insight into why he's so grouchy, right?
Yeah.
Maybe somebody should like make a Godzilla-sized arcade cabinet for him to play.
Well, commission somebody in Texas. They got all kinds of big shit out there.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so that pretty much covers what I wanted to say about this track, because, I mean, honestly, it is kind of a simple situation. Just sit down and hit some buttons and blow stuff up.
Yeah, I've never seen this game in the arcade. Like, I haven't actually been to like a proper arcade in a long while. Like, most of them are just like kind of have like this, some of the standards you'd expect to see in prize redemption games and stuff.
Right.
So like to actually find one that actually has like all these weird, cool like arcade cabinets and like sit down things.
Yeah, I think.
So I really. This would have been a really fun one to actually have a go at.
Yeah, and I think the last time I've seen this game was at something like that, like a Dave and Buster's or a Round One or something. Like there are now these like kind of you buy a card and your credits are on a card, and they kind of...
That's another thing I don't like about modern
Yeah.
like a lot of modern arcades now is just like they give you a card with credits on it as opposed to just like, you know, having
So there's
like coins or tokens or something like
right,
that.
there's an extra level of disconnect, so you don't really have an idea of how much money you're spending, but you just want to keep playing, so you just charge that card up. But I mean, there's something really to be said about the arcade experience, and I'm a huge fan of it. I mean, I grew up in the 90s going to the arcades, but like there's still some games that you can't really replicate that experience at home. Like Outrun, I think Outrun 2 is like one of my favorite games, like period. And they had like, this was at a GameWorks, which was like a similar situation, and they had this huge deluxe cabinet where you're literally sitting in like the back half of a car, and there's a huge screen in front of you, and there's 4 cars, and you're racing each other. I feel so lucky that I was able to play that, because I mean, I can't imagine that exists anywhere.
Yeah, for me, I think I was a little too young to actually be able to, like, you know, get into the arcades before those were starting to kind of phase out. Because I don't remember actually ever seeing, like, you know, the big, like, Outrun cabinets or, like, the Galaxy Force cabinets or anything, like, you know, all the crazy Sega ones that are just, like, moving around and stuff. You know, closest I got was, like, Hang On.
Yeah.
You know, like, with, like, the motorcycle.
Yep, now there's, like, these, like, kind of, like, game collector, like, conventions. I'm sure out by you on the West Coast, there's some pretty good ones. So those are, like, those conventions you go to that they'll have like collectors bring their stuff out, so then that's like the chance you can do it.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see stuff like that at a MagWest this year. I'm gonna be doing all 3 days. I got like a hotel room there, and I'm gonna just plant myself and just try to go to it as much as I can. We'll see how little sleep I get.
Dude, I'm so excited for you, because I've never been to MagWest, but I've been to MagFest a handful of times, and and when it comes to like the arcade experience, it is like that. At MagFest, there's like a huge arena-sized space just filled with arcade cabinets, and it's operating 24/7 that whole weekend, which is like insane.
Jeez.
Yeah, so you got your
Madness.
your Daytona USAs, your Dance Dance Revolutions, all of those like cabinets are there in one place, and there's a bunch of fighting game stuff too. I'm a huge fighting game player, so you can just go at any given time of your day, and you're like, oh, I want to go down and play Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and there's a crowd of people playing it. It's like, it's heaven.
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh man.
Oh, we got another tangent going on.
Yeah. I can say one thing that isn't heaven is the next track I got, or the creature that this next track is for. So we got My Dear D from Shinobi 3, and this is composed by either or Morihiko Akiyama, Hirofumi Murasaki, or Masayuki Nagao. that was My Dear D from Shinobi 3, composed by Morihiko Akiyama, Hirofumi Murasaki, and Masayuki Nagao. And this thing, like I said, is just the farthest thing from heaven. It's boiled. It's like a creation of boiled of its own hell. It's this is the theme that plays when you're fighting the boss of the third stage called Hydra, which is this just mass of just like bioweapons and bio creatures that were just dumped into this like vat of like just acid dump, and they just coalesce together into this giant monstrosity. I mean, Joe is just like just barely even like is the size of this thing's head, so you can imagine how big this thing is.
And I mean, yeah, the Shinobi 3 is like hitting on all levels. Like the game feels great, the game looks amazing, and obviously here we are celebrating this song. And I mean, you could argue that it's the best sounding Sega Genesis game, and I mean, you
definitely
you wouldn't be that far
one
off.
of, if not the.
Yeah, it sounds so good. The drums.
Oh yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, just like the drums are so punchy and clear. Like, there's a little bit of that kind of like distortion on them, but it's just still like really punchy and just like comes right through.
Yeah, and it sounds like that distortion is there. It almost sounds like it's intentionally
so
there.
Good. And then visually this game is just amazing, especially like this Hydra battle, just the way how like all the moving parts of it and just kind of, you remember how it looks and everything?
Yeah, I have an image in my head. I wasn't a kid that had a Sega Genesis, so I would just kind of see it when I would go over by like a friend's or at the store, or there was a place by my house where you could like go to the place. It was like a video rental place, but you could go there and they had consoles set up, so you could pay like $1 to play for a while, and you could just basically pick any game that they had. So that was what I would use to kind of cover my gaps.
Oh yeah, same. There was...
And I definitely played Shinobi 3 at least a handful of times. And I like that you also brought Shinobi 3, because Shinobi, like the original Shinobi, also has like a Kaiju connection, because when you played the game in the arcade, you would fight Godzilla.
What?
And it was like, yeah, so like there's like Spider-Man.
Yeah, I know Spider-Man, Batman, the Terminator, Terminator thing was from 2.
Yeah, and there's like a Godzilla in there too, and it was something that they had to kind of edit around for the home version.
Must have not. Yeah, either it got removed from the Sega, because the version I played was the Sega Master System one.
Yeah.
So either it got removed or I just never got that far. I don't know.
Yeah, I could share you. I'll find some screenshots of it, but it's really fun.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah,
everything's coming back to Godzilla.
Yeah.
Oh man.
We're talking about Kaiju, right? But yeah, I mean, these kind of biological monstrosities are like a huge part of like Kaiju, and it's stuff you would see maybe more towards like the 80s, like the early mid 80s.
Oh yeah.
Where you're getting like kind of like this dark sci-fi going on. And you can see
like a lot of the body horror stuff going on.
Yeah. Or
this,
something
this thing is definitely body horror to the extreme. Just like the way how it looks, like its teeth are just all like wavy and jutting out of its face. Its eyes are bugging out, like just almost like they're gonna burst out.
Yeah.
And this thing has this boils all over it that are just pulsating. Like they went all in on this guy.
Yeah. Have you heard of the group Shrednobi? They're like a VGM cover band, and they do like metal covers, and they have an album that's all just Shinobi 3, and the cover, you should check the cover out, because the cover art, it's super cool, and it's very reminiscent of what you're talking about right now. Have you heard of the group Super Madness?
No.
They're okay. Well, anyways, the reason that I brought that, because the guitarist from Shrednobi, he's also in that band too. So what about here? I'm gonna try 3 swings at this. Right? Are you familiar with Modal Module, the chiptune?
Oh yeah,
artist?
yeah. No, actually, I just got in contact. He contacted me just like a few months ago, and he's now one of my listeners, and kind of like getting to talk to him and stuff about. Yeah.
He's an awesome dude, and he's the keyboard player for Shrednobi.
Okay. So there's my in.
Yeah. So we got it. We got it. I almost struck out, but I got you with one. I should have led with the chiptune connection. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because I'm definitely more on the chiptune side of things, and like I'm unfortunately kind of like my VGM cover band kind of knowledge is a little lacking.
Nah, it's all good.
Very much lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, I'm more like chiptune and digital fusion, kind of like really digging into that stuff. So
yeah, and honestly, I'm to go back to why I enjoy your show. One of the things that I realized right away is that we kind of liked a lot of the same things when it came to chiptune and digital fusion and stuff. Like I remember back in the day, just going to 8-Bit Collective and just seeing what random stuff would be on there. It was such a cool place.
It was amazing.
You could literally find anything there. Like I would joke around with my friends because we would like share music with each other, and they'd be like, I could just look on 8-Bit Collective and be like, oh, is there a chiptune cover of a Kesha song? Sure, somebody did that.
Somebody did. And God.
Yep.
Yeah, that was such an amazing site. You know, it's even though it went down, like I think there's like a whole like somebody made a backup of all like almost all the music on there, and it's hosted on archive right now.
Yeah, I did see that. That's amazing. Love to see that stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing, just like all the preservation. And then I don't know, do you ever go to Battle of the Bits?
Yeah, I love Battle of the Bits.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's another.
That's just another.
Right. You can go there, and you just prepare to be there for a while, because you can look it up by the chip sound. You can look it up by the artist. Everything is like its own little rabbit hole that you can just dig.
It's amazing. Just like it's insane. Like and I kind of got into it a little late. I've always like aware of it, and I'd see like people sharing their stuff on like SoundCloud is where I really like mainly go for my like kind of music listening.
Cool.
But Battle of the Bits is like I've really recently started to dive into that and contributed a few things, and just the sheer amount of just amazing stuff in there is it almost kind of like hurts my brain just trying to like
yeah I love it. Yeah, I've been a fan of this stuff for a long time, but I never have been like I've never taken that extra step. Well, one, I'm just a listener. I'm not a music composer, but I love music, and two, like I never felt like, oh, I need to like connect with people. For a long time, I just felt that way.
Yeah,
but
same.
It wasn't really until like the podcast started popping out that like I was like, oh, there's this podcast. Oh, there's another podcast. Oh, there's people talking to each other. Oh, I want to talk too.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing for me. Like basically once I got access to the internet all the way up until maybe, just recently, like, 2020, I was really just kind of more of a lurker, just kind of, listening to things, hearing things, like maybe just posting my stuff every once in a while, like on SoundCloud. Like I did have some interactions with other, people that were part of the whole, like, Sega Genesis chiptune scene that was going on back in, like, the early 2010s. So I'd talk with, like, Dread or, a couple people like that. But it wasn't until just recently I really started like letting myself get out there and actually contacting people, because I had to remind myself that even though I'm just like kind of like making little rinky-dink tunes, and all these people are just so cool in my eye, like they're just all really nice, awesome people that are gonna be like oh hey, yeah, cool, come on in, join the party.
Yeah, it's a great community. And when it comes to like the composition side too, I think from what I've seen, everybody's really eger to share what they've been up to and kind of critique. Like it's awesome. Yeah, it's really fun to see.
Oh man, I'm gonna retitle this song, like this track, like Kaiju.
Yeah, question mark.
Question mark.
Tangents. Question.
Kaiju or Tangent Central.
Yeah, nice.
So I think we're getting onto your last track here.
Yeah, cool. All right, I have another track, and this is from Secret of Mana. This is a track called Meridian Dance, and it's composed by Horoki Kikuta.
welcome back. That was Meridian Dance from Secret of Mana, composed by Hiroki Kikuta. And yeah, I personally don't have much experience with Secret of Mana other than like what I played it on it via emulator. So when I first started listening to this track, I was like, wait a minute, this sounds like that one in Seiken Densetsu 3, but slightly different. So
yeah, that track is definitely riffing on what we're listening to here. I had a lot of experience with Secret of Mana. That was like one of like the first kind of big, not Zelda-ish like action RPGs that I really got into, and this was at a time where like Squaresoft really like the top of its game when it came to 16-bit RPGs. And I mean, I have vivid memories of playing this game after school. I have a great memory too, where it was like I was supposed to clean my room, but I wasn't cleaning my room. And my dad came upstairs like, hey, you're supposed to clean your room. And he did one of these things where this sacrilegious thing where he pulled the Super Nintendo cartridge out of the system.
Oh no!
While it was running. And I was like, oh no, because there's like a tab that kind of slides into where the cart is. And I was like, oh my god. So, I mean, I should have cleaned my room. I'm not saying that I was in the right there. But it was a very terrifying experience for me as a kid.
Did he come in with you like the Pinche Pendejo?
Yeah, close. That's funny. But we're talking about Kaiju, right? So like the reason that I'm bringing this track is that in Secret of Mana, eventually you get to the point where you have basically like dragon from Neverending Story, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah,
film.
like the big white kind of fluffy one.
Yeah,
the kind of pinkish
dragon.
mane on the back.
Yeah. So in this game, that's the name of this dragon is Flammy, and it becomes basically like your airship. So it's like you kind of have like a relationship with this creature. And I mean, I'm sorry, I'm gonna spoil Secret of Mana for people, but it's been a long time, right?
Yeah, it's been out for.
Yeah. So this is.
I don't even want to say how long it's been out for.
Yeah, don't think about that. This track, Meridian Dance, is for the last boss of the game, and unfortunately, what you realize is that this Flammy that you've been with is the Mana Beast, which is basically this monster that basically helps reset the world once it's gotten past the point of no return. And you've got to stop this beast, and that means that you have to fight your Flammy, which is a really sad situation. It's not, they don't capitalize on the emotion of it because it's a Super Nintendo game, but I mean, I guess I would compare it to something like The Last Guardian. You know that game by the same people that did, and that's pretty kaiju related too.
That's one I've always wanted. Like I wanted to try when I first heard about it, but then it was on the PS3, which I never had, never got, and yes.
Well, I
wanted to play.
Yeah, I would never spoil that game, and no matter what I'm saying about Secret of Mana here, that really doesn't apply to where the narrative goes in The Last Guardian. But I think The Last Guardian's narrative is just beautifully done. It's so great. If you do ever get the chance to play through that game, knowing that you said you really enjoyed Shadow of the Colossus, I think you would really get a lot of enjoyment out of The Last Guardian.
I wonder if it's ever been ported to Steam, and if not, I might have to figure out how to
there's some
get a PCSX 3 going.
There's probably some way to satisfy that need for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess another aspect of kaiju movies that I don't think is explored as much is kind of like the bond between a monster and a protagonist. The Gamera movies that I was talking about kind of explore that in a way. And actually, I think Gamera is the example that I'm thinking of, because more than just that series of films, Gamera would become known as like friend to all children.
Okay, that's what, like, I was trying to remember what I know that I've heard that phrase before.
Yeah.
I think because I remember seeing the Gamera Mugen character.
Yeah. Oh, really? Amazing. Your touchstone to that is the Mugen version of Gamera.
Mugen, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, I think somebody was working on like some like, either like a Gamera and then like a Mecha Gamera or something like that.
Was there?
I remember seeing that phrase.
Were they giant-sized characters, or were they scaled?
No, they were. They were kind of scaled down, but they were still pretty bulky looking.
Oh man. Okay, so for the listeners, just really quick, Mugen is basically like a homebrew fighting game system where people can just make any fighting game character to varying degrees of quality, but it was always a fun time to kind of mess around with that.
My personal favorite character is in a Iori edit called Trouble Man.
Nice. Oh,
yeah, and the guy made a Trouble Man 2, and my God, that was a fun character to play.
That's really great. That's another tangent we could get into. It's just Mugen characters, because when they were good, they were really good, but there's a lot of really bad ones also, which is still fun to look at. But exploring giant-sized characters in a fight. I mean, Godzilla has a handful of like fighting-ish games, but I don't think any of those have really captured what I think is fun about Godzilla or playing as Godzilla. And there's the this is another Capcom example, but Techromancer is like a mecha fighting game, but you're to the scale of Kaiju, where you're like a giant-sized robot, and that's really fun.
Nice. That's one I want to try out too.
Oh, dude, it's so good. And that was a game where this was like the Dreamcast era, where like for me that was the first era of video games where the home versions looked better than the arcade versions. So the arcade version of Kikayo Techromancer was cool, but the home version was way better. It looked nicer, and there was extra characters. Like you could play as Belodia from Cyberbots in that game. And I don't know. It was amazing.
Damn.
Yep.
You talking crazy, boy. You talking crazy.
Sorry.
You went away from Fluffy White Dragon all the way to mechs, like Capcom mech fighters.
That's right.
How'd you do this?
This normal day for Carlos. That's awesome.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, but that was my last track, and I think we've covered a lot of ground tonight, and man.
Oh yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on. This is a great time, and Kaiju are kind of like, I've always kind of been like kind of skirting on the side of them. Like, I like them. I just haven't really like dived deep into like, the whole like
all the movies,
actual history of it and stuff. Like, actually watching like the older movies, looking into like all the kind of cool variations on them and stuff. And then, like the only really experiences I've had with Kaiju, of course, are just like through video games.
Yeah, and that's so fun. It's such a fun idea to kind of pull into video game. Because when you're watching a movie and you see a giant monster, it can be exciting and terrifying and all those things, but to kind of put you in the boots of a monster itself, or like something like Earth Defense Force, where you're just a soldier like fighting giant ants and stuff. That's really fun.
Yeah. Oh man, that's another one I haven't played.
Yeah, I thought about, because there's so many of those going way back. I thought about maybe looking up some tracks from that, but there's just so much, and I was like, oh, I got my tracks, so I'm good.
Yeah, I know the one Earth Defense Force on the arcade,
mm-hmm.
I think is what, like by Jaleco,
yeah,
I think is what it is.
Yeah, it's like a shooter,
that one.
Right?
Yeah, that one actually, I have the boss rush theme. I think it's called Bass Rush or something like that, as like the ringtone for my boss.
Oh, that's amazing.
just that bass solo that happens.
Dude, that rules. I love that.
Yeah, all my ringtones are just all like different video, like just FM chiptune stuff from games.
Nice. I do have a selection of video game music for my phone, which is fun. my main ringtone is, and has been for a very long time, Let's Go Away from Daytona USA.
Oh jeez.
Yeah. Gotta do it.
Yeah, I think mine is, let's see, it's from it's one of the tracks from Asuka 100%, 120%.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Like,
nice.
Yeah. Can't deny the greatness of Keishi Yonao.
I was gonna say, that's Keishi Yonao. Yeah. And I mean, another great composer, and another dude that's still kind of holding that torch for chiptune.
Oh yeah, no, he's actually just released, or is going to be releasing FM Vertex 3, which is this whole compilation of just different like FM artists.
Dude, I've been following it, and I know it was released at like that game music like expo in Tokyo, and I've been waiting. I'm probably gonna import it, because I've got
oh, man.
one. I don't have part 2, but I have the first album.
Yeah, I need to get those. It's cool. Like, he's kind of like carrying the torch of what the whole like Sound Shock trilogy was doing.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Yeah, he's really roping in a lot of like composers that maybe you hadn't heard from in a while too.
Yeah, and I know, and then I saw some other names in there like Shinobubula,
Yep.
and I think like Jake Kaufman's in there.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know, was Joshua Morse in that as well?
I'm not sure. I don't
Okay.
think so, but I like that guy too.
know.
He's great.
Oh man, here we go. Like we're just devolving.
Sorry.
No, this is great. Just like maybe next time I have you on, we just need to like just do a deep dive into this. Maybe have a look at Vertex.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
I'd be down for that. And yeah,
Hell
I mean
yeah.
Japanese compilations in general, because there's been kind of some cool notable stuff that's pretty hard to access if you're here in the States. You have to use like one of these proxy importing services, so you're gonna have to pay some money, but it's really cool to see, because I still feel like Japan, they're still not into like digital marketplace stuff in the way that we are over here. But it is kind of cool to see some Japanese like artists on Bandcamp. That you're starting to see that more.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like Kota Takahashi, the guy that did Ridge Racer 4, he's got like music on Bandcamp now.
Nice.
Love it.
Dang.
Keep it coming.
Keep it coming. Though,
Yeah.
unfortunately, we must, as all things must, end here. Oh man!
Yeah.
But thank you again, Carlos, for just coming on and talking kaiju and kind of helping me kind of get into more of a subject that I've been wanting to really kind of meaning to dive into. And
Cool.
I'm really looking forward to your next few episodes talking about Godzilla.
That's really nice to hear. Thank you so much. I'm happy to hear people excited about the things that I'm excited about.
Yeah.
So, because when I start rambling about this stuff, and I'm like, sometimes you're just like, well, why am I doing this?
Because you love it. You're in love with it. It's like
Yeah,
it's
I do.
it's what gets you going.
Yeah, and I have such a fun time on Heroes 3 with my homies Matthew and Marty. So I'm glad that they're enjoying like the stuff that I'm bringing, because like I know that they're probably in a similar space as you, where they like this stuff, but they never really got sucked into it in the way that I have.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to have us discuss these movies. Like I'm cornering them in a room, like, all right, now you have to talk.
You gotta talk about this, boys. We're not leaving until we
Yeah.
talk about this.
Yep. But I mean, honestly, like, yeah, dude, this has been such a fun time, and if you, any subject, honestly, if you want me to come back to ramble about some random fighting games or other stuff, kung fu movie stuff, or
Oh yeah.
anything, dude, I'm totally down. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I will.
Yeah, and like I said too, I'm a huge fan, and this is really fun that you
Oh,
have me on
man,
the show.
thank you. Oh shucks. Oh shucks. I like you.
Everybody's like, all right, we get it.
Oh no. Well, Carlos, again, thank you. And can you tell the folks where they can find you and what you do?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I point you towards Heroes 3. So it's a podcast about Asian cinema, all forms of Asian cinema, whether it be animation or kung fu movies or drama. We've even covered some Bollywood films. Heroes3.com or at Heroes, the number 3 podcast on social media, so Twitter, Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. We release an episode every 2 weeks, usually. Sometimes we miss that mark, but it's okay. We still have a lot of fun doing it, and you can find me there. I have my own personal Twitter account. It's at Pooplos_Z, which is its own like kind of goofy whole thing. Yep, that's a handle.
Next time on Pooplos Z.
Yeah, exactly. And I usually share stuff that I like, so it'll probably be a similar thing. Video game stuff, fighting game stuff, artwork, stupid jokes.
Nice.
And yeah, fighting games, I said, martial arts, all these things. Not martial arts practicing, but appreciation for it. Yeah, so hit me up.
Yeah, do it, folks. This guy, he's a real cool guy, I gotta tell you. And at the very least, check out Heroes 3 podcast, because it's a really great time with Carlito and his 2 co-hosts. My favorite ones were definitely when they covered the 2 Drunken Master movies, as well as Face Off. That was surprisingly enlightening. Yeah, so thank you again, Kungfu Carlito, for coming onto the show, and I definitely look forward to having you on the next time. Possibly for if you do import FM Vertex 3, we could, talk about that, feature some of the songs. Now that would be a fun time. So I'd like to thank all of you for listening to VGMporium once again. And if this happens to be your first time in, probably because Carlito mentioned it on the Heroes 3 this past Monday, welcome on in. And if you'd like to listen to future episodes, you can find it on all your favorite podcatchers such as Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, Audible, as well as on social media, Twitter, however long that's going to be around. I don't know, Instagram, as well as you can go to the main website, VGMporium.wordpress.com, to find all the episodes that I have done so far, as well as all the links to those different things, as well as the Discord if you're interested in that. And there is also an email, VGMporium@gmail.com, where you can send special orders, which is basically song requests. And once I get enough in, I'll do its whole dedicated episode. Now, as you heard us talk about, I am going to MagWest this next weekend, and I'm really looking forward to it. As far as to what I'm going to be releasing before and after that, I'm not quite sure. I have, one thing I'm kind of planning for the episode before. And then for the week after that, it'll either be something about MagWest, if I'm able to get something ready, or it'll be, just some random episode that I prepared beforehand. Maybe another Shop Themes episode. Yeah, that's it.